Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome back to Talk of the Devils. Brought to you by talkofthedevils.co.uk. At least it's an early kickoff and not the last one, because it'd be a couple of hours till bedtime, and just be miserable. What a miserable day. Nothing to be happy about. I mean, I was saying backstage, 3 goals was really flattering. It wasn't as abysmal of what it could have been, but it really did flatter us in the end. Bold move in the midfield, I think, today. I was saying this to a couple of the boys in the chat earlier on, and all 3 of them were really poor. And I think, even when we were 2-0 down, 3-0 down, the defence looked okay, and I think a lot of the mistakes were happening in sort of the midfield, and even when it was getting up top, very rash, very quick to make mistakes. Stu, good to have you back, buddy. It's been a few weeks. Talk to me about how you're feeling. Get your comments in, guys. Get subscribing, get liking as well.
Is it a hard one to take? Yeah, possibly. I mean, I thought we might actually go there and win this week, to be fair. And that wasn't based on anything other than that if you can't get up for a match like Manchester City, then you've got an issue as a player. And unfortunately, we had 11 issues on the pitch today, which astonished me more than anything. And I think what worries me more than anything is it's not even lack of belief. It's we are mentally weak as footballers. The whole squad is mentally weak, and we can't seem to get over this mental block of playing somebody like City. We lack the usual aggression. We lack the usual composure. We lack the usual calmness. We lack the usual ability to play a simple 2 and 3 yard pass effectively. We lack the ability to control the ball. We lack the ability to understand positional play. We lack the ability to see in front of us, to the side of us and behind us. We just lacked overall ability to play football today, really. And it was astonishing to witness as a fan, because, these guys are supposed to be at the elite level footballers. And I'm not really sure that, if I'm being honest, I don't think that Ten Hag picked the right starting 11 at all. People will argue against that, and they'll argue for it.
Hindsight's a wonderful thing, isn't it? You can argue the toss either way, and who would you have rather have started?
I would just tucked in Casemiro straight away, because the type of match you're going to get at McTominay against City. Some people have pointed to his goal a few seasons ago.
I think with McTominay and what we've seen over the last few weeks, he's obviously played very well, but that's usually when you've been more on the front foot. I would say you're not going to have your backs to the walls like we did against City today, and he's not good under that certain type of pressure, and I think Casemiro would have been a better fit. Yeah.
The thing about professional football at the very highest level, even on middle of the Premier League on a Saturday, your players are picked on the ability to do a job for you on any particular game. It's not just every game. You're picked on an ability to do a job for the game. We know that Casemiro knows how to play City, because he's done it on 2, 3, 4, 5 occasions against City, and Real Madrid have always come out on top. So he knows how to play City, and you can't play Rashford through the middle. You've got to look at, I would have put Ronaldo in there. You know that you're going to be playing with 10 men, more or less, when you got Ronaldo on the pitch, but he offers you that tiny little ability to hold the ball up, that tiny ability to pop the ball in the back of the net when you desperately need a goal. And I'm not saying Ten Hag got it wrong today, but when you look at the overall way that we defended in the first half, I didn't think we defended well at all, if I'm honest, Mark. I thought we were a bit all over the place. Dalot gets a yellow card early doors, and then he goes into a shell. You get a yellow card in football, you just got to keep on playing. Forget it. Move on. Forget it. Just carry on playing. When you got somebody like Grealish is running out on you, Dalot's got to get in hard early doors. He's got, sorry, Jackie boy, this is what's going to happen to you for 90 minutes, pal. So it's up to you if you want 90 minutes worth of punishment or you don't. And he didn't do that. He didn't concentrate on anything that he's been good at on the last couple of weeks. This positional sense, again, it gets totally exposed. Malassi was exposed positionally today as well. If you looked, the amount of space that Foden had and the communication between Martinez and Varane, absolutely non-existent. Non-existent. I don't know what's happened. Maybe they went away and hadn't seen each other for 6 weeks. I don't know. But the communication was poor. And then when you marry in McTominay, who can't defend for his life, you've got problems. And unfortunately, it just unravelled as soon as Dallo got his booking. He started crying, blah, 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 blah. And before you know it, we're 3 goals down. It's just one of those. Tricky one.
Humbling today, humbling for Ten Hag, a realisation for Ten Hag, a realisation for the team, and a realisation for the fans. You know, they've had multiple good weeks now after a very poor start. And it was only going to take a game against a team like City. I mean, take nothing. They are incredible to watch. It pains me to say it, but they play excellently, and you can't. I mean, Haaland, he's just something else, isn't he? He was absolutely superb. Just want to say, loads of you over on Twitter, and we can't read any comments that you may or may not put in. So come over to youtube.com/Talk of the Devils. Get your comments in here. Tell us how you're feeling. Where did it go wrong? And we'll try and unravel that a bit more for you. Jamie.
Yes, I'm just going to offer just a little bit of an early counterpoint to Stu. I personally don't think that Ten Hag got it wrong in terms of the team setup. I think he was in a very catch-22 position. We've been banging on so hard about managers picking players based on performance rather than names. So I think he was in a sticky situation where he's got an 11 that have settled, that have been good since that 4-0 win at Brentford. And he's gone with them. He's gone with pretty much an identical starting 11 that we've had the last 4 Premier League games that has seemed to have worked out for him. So he was never going to please everyone. If he'd have dropped McTominay for Casemiro and we still put in a similar performance, people would have been sat there saying, why have we dropped McTominay when he's been so good? I completely agree with Stu that we knew what performance we were going to get from McTominay today before a ball was even kicked, because we know how he performs in these games. I think City were very intelligent with how they played. If you watched how they operated in the midfield, they seemed to almost drop off a lot of the time and just give us the ball in midfield because they knew we weren't going to do anything progressive or threatening with it. But then they were there to snap up any loose passes, which for the first half an hour, I don't think we connected a decent pass anywhere across the pitch, really. It's hard not to be reactionary, but I'm going to try my very best not to be reactionary. You know, this is our 7th Premier League game under Erik ten Hag. We obviously had a rough ride at the start. We found a bit of form, and then we've come up against this freakish super team that are just the best. They are the best team in the world. There isn't a team realistically that over the course of a season goes toe-to-toe with City.
I agree, and I was saying this in another chat just very quickly. Listen, it was an abysmal performance there, and we should be playing much better than that. There's absolutely no doubt about that. But I think they could probably beat most teams 3-4-0. If I'm honest, if they play like that, no one's got a chance.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, obviously there are games and there are instances where City crumble and teams get results against them. You know, Villa got a result against them. There's been quite a few teams over the past couple of seasons that have managed to put them to the sword. In a certain sense, they don't put them quite to the sword as they do to other teams, but you know what I mean. But Guardiola literally has probably the best footballing brain on the planet, and he's instilled that into his players, into his team, and you see that with what they do. Every time that they turn up onto that football pitch, they have a game plan that's clearly executed, regardless of who's playing, whether they're playing actual wide wingers, whether they're playing more inside forwards. You know, we saw how they operated with Grealish and Foden, who tucked into the inside channels, and they beat us on the overlap when Bernardo and De Bruyne were running around the outside. And we ended up almost with a flat back 6 with people tucking in to try and protect against it. And it was never going to work because they've got that absolute Norwegian robot who just scores goals for fun. So I personally think that, yes, we were poor today. I don't think it's the doom and gloom that Twitter seemingly have jumped on and are making it out to be. That always happens. People overreact. And yes, it's a drubbing. Yes, 6-3 was a massively flattering scoreline for us. They did what they did in the 2-0 game last season, where they just took their foot off the gas. They didn't really care. We were beaten badly and they just stopped playing football. Guardiola will punish them for that. I genuinely think Guardiola will punish them for conceding 3 goals to this United side today. And that is the level that they're at. They're an elite super team who don't really have a weakness. If you want to play possession-based football against them, you're going to get beaten. If you want to try and play on the counter, play fast breaks, which is clearly how we were set up today, they let us play that game, and it didn't work for us because we were far too agitated. We were far too nervous. You noticed in the first 10 minutes, every time Bruno or Eriksen got the ball, their heads went up and they were looking to try and feed that early ball into Rashford, and it didn't work because Akanji dropped off, didn't really allow Rashford the space in behind him. I thought Akanji was very good today, by the way. Considering his price tag and the fact that it's his first Manchester derby, he looks assured and he looks like he's been playing in that Pep team for a while. And I just think Pep came with a good game plan. He knew how to beat us. We've had some good run of form at the Etihad over the past, several years. Today wasn't our day. Haaland's a freak. Foden seems to be having one of those seasons where he's good again. It's City. Do you know what I mean? And it pains me to say, because obviously I was at Old Trafford for the 6-1 defeat back in 2011, and I thought it was one of the worst days of football I've ever seen. It probably was the worst day I'd ever experienced up until that point. Whereas now, I think this happens every season. I swear to God, we're stuck in this Groundhog Day against City, where we're getting battered by them at half time. There's always a cut. The camera cuts to a Fergie in the crowd looking dishevelled. Gary Neville's on commentary saying how this is humbling and embarrassing. I swear this has happened every season for the last 10 years. So trying to put a positive spin on it, it's nothing new. I don't think it's anything new. Did it expose anything that we didn't really know? No, I don't think so. We knew that this is a young, naive United side that are still coming to terms. So, like I say, it's our 7th Premier League game under Ten Hag. It's Pep's 7th year, I think, at City. So he's, right into his project. He's got players playing how he wants to. Ten Hag's still figuring things out. I still think we'll come good towards the end of the season, and it gives Ten Hag more. It gives him more credence to now start experimenting with the team. Casemiro will probably come in, I reckon, the next game and start it because McTominay was poor today, and we'll see him be a bit ruthless with it. But I don't think it is the end of the world as people are suggesting. We were poor, but we'll bounce back.
Yeah, sometimes you need these realizations, and obviously you don't want it to come in the form of what's happened today, but it has to happen nonetheless. Great to have you back on, Jamie. Fred, I hope you're well, buddy. Anything from you? How you feeling?
Oh, just great goal from Anthony. End of.
Let's talk about the positives. Martial 2, 9-goal thriller, and Martial steals the show.
It was brilliant. The Anthony's, I mean, if Alanga was on, who knows? We could have had a trio of Anthony's getting back to 6-6. Who knows? But no, I very much agree with what Jamie mostly said. This team is an anomaly in sort of just recent teams. It's going to be remembered. The City team is going to be remembered as just one of those great teams, I think. And they're at full development. They've had a manager. They've got a stable manager who's been there for 7-8 years. They've got the players who know exactly how the manager needs to play and the style of play. They've got two, 3 players in each position. It's very much like a Ferguson team in terms of stage of where they were. It's just that perpetual motion where they've got a couple of players for each positions. They're bleeding in the youth, and then they've just brought in Haaland, which combining with De Bruyne, they've probably got the 2 best players in the league. So. If you want anything against a team like that, every single player has to put in an 8 or a 9 on the day, and you hope for the best. And unfortunately, we just capitulated in the first 10 minutes, and that set the tone for the game. Whether it's a bit of lack of sharpness because of the break, or it's just a team in their infancy, like someone mentioned. I think Ten Hag hasn't even played 10 games yet, so he's still learning the league. He's still getting to know the players. Half the players don't fit the style he wants to play, and frankly, most of them or some of them aren't good enough compared to the City team. So I think the scoreline flattered us today. There are positives to take away. I think Anthony, that goal came out of nothing, but it was such a great finish nonetheless. I mean,
fantastic finish, yeah.
Really great finish, and I think he had a very poor game, all things considered. I think Martial coming back was a huge positive. I mean, to get a few goals in at the end, brilliant. I mean, that penalty was fantastic as well.
Yeah, I tell you what, again, we're going to try and find positives out of this. We've got to talk about the silver linings, if there are any, few and far between, I know, but it was a fantastic penalty. No one saves those. No one saves those.
I actually think Ten Hag. Well, I have no surprises with the starting 11. In all honesty, I think he had to go with that team. He's trying to get a team that he trusts. It's the team that beat Arsenal. Personally, I maybe would have played Casemiro and McTominay just because I'm slightly risk averse. And hindsight's a wonderful thing, as you mentioned. But I think Ericsson, unfortunately, had his worst game of the season, as did most of the midfield and the attack. We were just awful in possession. Whereas every time City had the ball, they looked like they were going to score. So it was just a very, very bad day at the office, and hopefully we turn things around, because October is going to be a mad month, and we can't afford to. We just need to put this game behind us and move forward as a team and get back to the form we experienced last month.
Speaking of the devil, talk of the devil, Christian Eriksen has said a few things in interviews. He said the main focus from this game should be on ourselves, and there are many things we have to change. It was far from acceptable. We have to take this as a tough defeat, and it is about getting back up and showing character. We need to do that. It came very heavy. Everyone feels it as a very bad day at the office. We start on the wrong foot, and they had a lot of chances from kickoff. We have to blame ourselves. As a group, everyone will be looking at themselves. We will have a meeting with the manager tomorrow and go through everything that went wrong today. Obviously, all expected things, nothing out of the ordinary there. Pretty self-explanatory. Christian Eriksen, Stu, has been our signing of the summer. He's been absolutely brilliant. Had a good international break as well. But a very poor performance today. Wasn't himself at all. Very much giving passes away, didn't have that control, wasn't able to really be given that opportunity to take that control. But anything else that you thought from him today? It was a poor performance, wasn't it?
Well, he says that we'll have a meeting with the manager tomorrow, etc., etc., etc. But football's as much about you as an individual as it is about listening to a manager telling you what to do, telling you where to be. It's all about thought, and it's all about years and years ago when I was 8, if I can remember that far back, and it was a hell of a long time ago.
Years and years and years ago.
One of my coaches always said to me, 90% of football's in your brain. Your brain then just directs your legs to where you need to go. And that's what it is, And unfortunately, our brains and our feet at Manchester United aren't talking to each other. And you're right, Eriksen was completely out of kilter today. He just, whatever he wanted to do, his feet weren't delivering on that. But again, and I've said this for many a year, and I'll keep churning this line out. When something's going wrong in a game, you can't always be looking across to the gaffer and asking the gaffer, what should I do? Where should I do? For fuck's sake, use what you... Sorry, Wayne. Use what you've got in here, your eyes. Use these, your ears, and then start deciding for yourself what to do, because you're the only one that can impact your segment of the football pitch. Nobody else. It's just you. You're the only one that can do that. And it's all right, Eriksen coming out and saying, or Martial coming out and saying, or Rashford coming out and saying, oh, we must do better, blah, blah, we're hurting, blah, 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 blah. Where were you when we needed you the most on the pitch? Jadon Sancho again today, pretty much anonymous. I know he had the ball a couple of times, but he necessarily didn't do anything with it. He went backwards more than he went forwards. Anthony didn't really attack the box. He didn't attack the diagonal. Yes, he got his goal, but we never really punished the fullbacks like Grealish went at Dalot, and at Foden went at Malacia. We didn't hit the box. That's where you get pens. That's where you push the fullback back and you make him make a mistake. These players, they're not committing other players. They're not trying to win fouls like Grealish does. They're not trying to forward think. They're not trying to do anything. They're just basically, at parts of the game today, we were very reserved in the way that we were playing. I think actually, Jamie, you're absolutely right, and I do agree with you. I think Ten Hag was backed into a corner with his team. I do understand that, but sometimes a manager's got to have that little tiny bit of bottle, just that little tiny bit of bottle, and say, you know what, I'm doing this. If I get thrashed 6-0, so be it. It's my decision to do it.
You know what? Just to play devil's advocate a little bit. There was a lot of people, including myself at times, where we used to go in for Ollie because he would bring out the same team every week, not make any sort of bold movements, which you're saying now, and shouldn't we sort of be saying the same thing towards Ten Hag today? Did he get it wrong?
Well, again, I think Jamie's right, and so is Freddie. I don't necessarily think he got the team wrong. I think he was looking at what had been, happened in the past, and he's relying on these lads to go out and do it. But good managers, a Guardiola or a Klopp to an extent, Ferguson and Wenger in his heyday, of Benitez when he was at the top of his game, they can look into a player's eyes and they know instantaneously whether they're up for it or not. You can just see. You look around the dressing room when you're getting changed, you're putting your socks on, however you do it. He's not up for it. Oh, I've done it again. Sorry, Wayne. He's not up for it. He doesn't. You can just tell now. I'm saying to me, mate, oh crikey, we're going to have problems here. And then you've got to. It's up to you to G him up. I don't see enough of this. I see always plenty of talk at the post match, but I don't see enough during a match. I don't see enough aggression during a match, and I just wonder. For me, it's a bit of a thing that Ericsson comes out with. It could have been anyone, and I think all of us on this panel could pretty much say right from the get-go what these players are going to come out and say, what Ten Hag's going to say, etc. But look, the flip side of it is whether City took their feet off the pedal or not, we still scored 3 goals, and we did score 3 goals at the Etihad. So we're scoring goals. We're just not potent. And you've got to be potent in football. You have to be potent.
Yeah. Good points, well made. Dave in the comments here, hello buddy. Let's take a breath, guys. We've been punished by not playing for a month. City away was the worst game for us to come back to. Month out took away our mojo, and City away form was the worst possible. He's absolutely right. Sometimes having that, this is not a normal season again. We've got a World Cup in a few weeks' time, and it's just completely disjointed. And 4 weeks without football.
But Mark, you could have player adaptability. You're talking professional football players. You're not talking about me, Aaron, and Jamie, and you on a Monday night. How's your work today? Yeah, not bad. Getting changed in it. Let's go and see if we can win. You're talking about professional.
That does happen on a Monday night, everybody.
Of course it does. You're talking about professional footballers who, when if they're not on international duty, they should be working hard in the gym. They should be working on certain things about the game. I don't know whether we're doing that at Manchester United. And Jamie's absolutely right, by the way. And as the best point I've heard in a long time, Guardiola will wring the necks out of City for taking the foot off the gas. Absolutely wring the neck out of it. What you do?
He never looks happy, does he? He's never content.
That's what winners do.
Old.
Yeah, that's what winners do. Winners do that. He'll get them in the dressing room, say, "Look, 6-3, well done," but bang, 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 and he'll hammer them for the mistakes they made in the game. And that's what winners do.
Yeah, good points, well made. And guys, come over to YouTube, get your comments in, get liking, tell us how you feel, and tell us what needs to change maybe for next week. We've got a game against Everton, and obviously they're not particularly in great form, and we need to really bounce back. That's probably one of the best fixtures you could ask for in order to do so. So we've got to really be looking forward to that one and regrouping. Fred, anything else to add today? Obviously, spoke about Anthony, well taken goal. I saw a bit of a sort of one of those questions the other day. Who's better value for money, Grealish or Anthony? Now I know based on today, you'd say Grealish, but what do you think with his performance? And do you think he'll start to sort of get into his stride as the season comes on?
I hope so. I mean, it's far too early to draw any conclusions like that, and equally make those comparisons because they're two totally different players. Grealish, and I think your Bernardo Silvas. These type of players just always love playing United, and unfortunately, they just had a great day today, and we weren't at the battle. I think Anthony will improve in time. I mean, this is his third game, I think it is, and he's been away with Brazil, so he hasn't had much time on the training ground with his teammates in the grand scheme of things. So inevitably, he's going to improve. The team just needs time. They need time to gel together, to play together. This is going to be a long process. I hate saying, we're in a transition because it seems to be every single year that gets thrown around, but we really are. We really are. I mean, brand new manager, brand new executive CEO and Richard Arnold, we've had a big transfer window with 5 or 6 players in, and we need the same amount as well to fill the other gaps in the team. So look, we just came against a better team today, who are far further in their development. The team are inevitably going to improve. It's a real shame that we've had a gap because we had really good momentum and past few performances in the last few games. But yeah, there's plenty of games in October before the World Cup kicks off. Hopefully, we can just sort of regain that spark. We have to. The only concern I've got is I'm intrigued to see how Varane is and if he's out for a few weeks, because he did go down. So that's probably.
I was going to bring that up next. Yeah, I was going to bring that up next. It's a bit of a concern is that obviously they've been very, very solid. In fact, before when the team sheets came out, I was stupidly but quietly confident, because obviously you want to keep a consistent back four, which we have done for weeks, okay? And they've obviously built up a good rapport, and they seem to be getting a good structure in place, and we're defending very brilliantly. And with so many changes to the Man City back line, I thought that, yes, they needed speed. That's what they wanted. They made those changes in order to sort of help against the counter. But changing 2 players, I felt, obviously that didn't work out today, would have been one too many. Didn't work out like that in the end. But with Varane out, as you were just saying, it could really disjoint that back four again. Although Lindelof came on and he was. He wasn't bad, but the whole team were in disarray at that point. So what could he do?
Yeah, and just on that, actually, I mean, you've got to remember, City had 2 centre-backs, brand new centre-backs, and who hadn't played together, and they were missing Rodri, arguably the best player in the league in that position. So, yeah, look, we need to get to that stage. Unfortunately, they've set the benchmark. We need to get as close to that, and we need to, get a bit of consistency within the starting 11, which Ten Hag, that's the approach he seems to be taking. But equally, we are going to get injuries. So the players who do come in, they have to quickly adapt. Like Stu said, these are professional athletes. As long as they just focus on their job, do their job in their segments correctly, hopefully, that we've got the quality and depth to not drop in form. But yeah, it seems now that we're entering a period where there's lots of games. Players are going to get niggles. We just need to. Ten Hag needs to galvanise them and get those relationships, get people playing together, and form relationships as soon as possible. But yeah, October is going to be a long month. I think plenty of games. A few players will go straight into the deep end, but especially Casemiro. I don't think Casemiro is great today either. So I know he'll probably will go in the next few games, but he needs to pick up the pace ASAP as well.
Yeah, I think it's just taken a little bit of time for him to be embedded into the team. And sometimes, not everyone comes in and hits the ground running. We forget this. We're always expecting of players to come in and do a Bruno, for example, and it doesn't always work out like that. Varane,
he's gone completely the opposite way. By the way, now Bruno, he needs to completely reevaluate what he's doing. He was poor. If he's.
It's a real difficulty with Bruno. Obviously, come in, brilliant player, wonderful stuff.
Yeah, he is.
Incredible couple of years, and he's a fantastic player. But he's either all in and excellent, or all out. I didn't even remember hearing his name once today. It's crazy. Just a couple of points that Eric's come out and said, and then I come to you, Jamie, and then we're going to move on to player ratings, which I know is going to be difficult, but we'll have a bit of fun with it. So, is what it is. So you said lack of belief. I'm surprised why we didn't bring it onto the pitch. I've seen a different team spirit, and we did not look convinced. I have to talk to my players and find out why. If we don't fight, which we didn't, you are going to have a problem against Manchester City. This is different to Brentford. That day we didn't run. Today we ran, but there was no belief. I think, Fred, you said this earlier actually, and you hit the nail on the head. You've got players in that team that are excited to play these types of games for the last couple of seasons, the last 10 years really, bar a couple of seasons ago with Ollie when we beat him twice within the season. You haven't really got any players that are ready for these types of games. They don't look ready. You can't see that sort of excitement and willingness even before the game started. You can see it in particular players that they're ready, and there's a little bit of sort of laughing and smiling, sort of jeering each other up, but you just don't get any of that. So you're absolutely spot on there. I will show the team tomorrow. We could have been on the front foot in the first goal. We won the ball and could have created a chance and gave it away. That is unacceptable. I wanted to change the attitude of the team. We were braver in the second half, created chances and scored 3 goals. Only from my mistakes you learn. Only from mistakes you learn, and we have to do better than that game. Finally goes on to say, it is a process. When you're not concentrated against Manchester City, you get hammered. That is what happened. You cause your own problems. You get hammered. Big words there at the end there, but he's absolutely right. Nothing that we wouldn't have expected. Just to quickly come to Dave here on the Casemiro. We're just talking about him. Casemiro needs to start every game if we're to get him up to the standard. Yeah, I think he probably needs a lot more minutes. And he had a bit of a break before he came from Real Madrid to United, so that could be, just lack of match fitness and that sort of thing. Yeah, Jamie, any last words on that and anything that Ten Hag has obviously mentioned there?
Yeah, I mean, we won the second half. Do you know what I mean? And football's a game of 2 halves, they always say. So I'll take that as a small little victory. They won 4-0 in the first half, and we won 3-2 in the second half. So that's enough for me to sleep easy. I think obviously he's right. I think there was naivety. There was a lack of belief in the squad. They probably were a little. I think Fred was spot on. There was a few players in that squad that were probably excited to get involved in this game, and they really wanted to have a go. But I think they were probably let down by the other players who probably went into the game just worried. I think this squad is fragile. I'm not necessarily sure we've got a weak mentality. I think we've seen over the last few weeks that, let's say the last few weeks, since we've been, the times we've been playing, so obviously it's been a long time since we played Premier League football.
Yeah, you're right. It's when the shoe fits, isn't it? Like a few weeks ago, we were winning games, playing well, mentality was there. So it can't just disappear. It's just one of those things, isn't it?
I think we're potentially a bit of a fragile team because of a few personalities on the squad that might have experienced, some of the bad times at United over the last few years. And it's important that they don't bring down the rest of the lads. So I think, like people like Malacia looks like he's got a really good attitude. Martinez looks like he's got a really good attitude. They're the sort of players that I want to go into these games excited, hungry, and show that tenacity. And then I think the other players shrunk away. McTominay is criminal for it. He does it sort of every big game we have. He'll shrink into his shell. And we saw that again today. I don't know the stats off the top of my head. His pass completion would have been poor again today. His pass attempts would have been poor. I didn't see him. What we've been praising him for over the last few weeks is the simplicity that he's taken his game back to. He stripped his game right back, wasn't attempting things that were beyond his skill set, and was just playing well at recycling possession to Eriksen and letting Eriksen find Bruno or Eriksen find the passing behind the lines. McTominay didn't seem to do that. And then obviously Eriksen was poor today, so he couldn't shine with just giving the ball to Eriksen. But there's a few times McTominay did what he's been quite suspect to do in the last few years, where he picks his head up and sees a pass and thinks, I can make this pass. He's not that guy. Do you know what I mean? Like, he's not the guy to be spreading 30, 40-yard passes between the lines, especially against a team like City. And it obviously then causes a recycling of possession. City can come forward, and as we know with City, they're deadly when they come forward. Their passing routines are ridiculously good. And like I say, they passed through our midfield like we weren't even there. I agree with what Stu was saying about Bruno. He really needs to figure out what his role in this team is at the minute. When he first joined and we were playing sort of Project Restart, there was no fans. He was our superstar. He was the talisman of the team. He was scoring. He was assisting. It doesn't seem like he's doing that very well at the minute. So there has to be something redefined in his job description, allowing him to play the ball in behind for Rashford. We've seen him do that a few times over the last few weeks, and he's been quite good at doing that. His problem is that he won't be happy with just being that provider. You see him; he wants to get the ball high up the pitch. He wants to be that hero, but unfortunately, in games like this, it doesn't really work. And then I think defensive-wise, we've all said in group chats and all this that if Haaland had a field day today, everyone would turn around and be taking the mick out of Martinez's height again. Despite the fact that Erling Haaland scores goals for fun, like, this guy is boring. Like, it's actually boring how good he is. If any young people that want to be a centre forward, he is the perfect man to watch. This is genuinely not even a daft take. He might be one of the best centre forwards I think I've ever seen in terms of his movement, his finishing, his productivity. He is just robotic. But today, I don't put down to Martinez's fault. I think Haaland isolated Varane a lot. He ran at Varane, got in behind him, and he had fun with Varane. This is probably Varane's worst game in the United shirt that I can think of. So I don't think we're going to see over the next few days that people are going to be taking a mick out of Martinez. He's back to being this small guy. I've already seen some memes on Twitter where it's Rey Mysterio versus the Great Khali.
I did say that, yeah.
These people did not watch the game today because he bullied McTominay. You know, you watch, there was the goal that he scored where Eriksen was marking him. You know, Varane had gone off with the injury. Eriksen was marking him in the first phase, and then Haaland just runs through and dunks on McTominay. And McTominay's 6'4". You know, he's a big guy. I don't think height advantage is what allows Haaland to score goals. This guy is a monster, and he will score goals. He will break every Premier League record this season because he's an absolute robot in a setup that is perfect for him. So I think that we've spoken about the result quite a bit now. I do think that Varane was poor. I hope he's not injured because he's been fantastic with Martinez. And I think we'll bounce back. Everton is our next Premier League game, you know, and we really need to kick on and get a result there. Everton always treat us like a cup final, like every other team do. So I am a bit worried. They've seemed to have found some form. We need to make sure that we don't follow up this defeat with a defeat to Everton or anything less than 3 points, really.
The interesting thing about Haaland's first goal, by the way, is if you look at Eriksen, he's kind of the wrong side of Haaland for a start, number one. And number two, he just didn't basically touch out and try and feel where he was, you know, because when you're a defender, if you're allowing a player to back into you, that's absolutely brilliant because you just grab hold of his shirt and you can do it on the blind side of the referee. Whether he out muscles you or not, it doesn't matter. What you're doing is you're slowing him down. And that's the key element to touch defending is you're slowing him down. McTominay didn't do exactly the same. When you're defending against somebody like Haaland, you just need to know where they are. You just got to feel where they are. And as soon as they start to run, just tense your arm up. And you're not going to stop somebody like Haaland. But what you are going to do, you're going to slow him down. By slowing him down, that allows you to get into a more defined position to at least make a challenge against him. And, you know, by the way, lads, that's pure basic defending. And we didn't even do that today. I know Gary Neville was saying, well, why is Eriksen there? It's a great question. Why is Eriksen there? The reason being, Varane, as Jamie said, was off the pitch. But this is where, and people all don't know what you're talking about, this is exactly where Maguire's brilliant at defending corners. And when he gets his head on it, he's absolutely brilliant because he knows where they are at any one time. Maguire's not great on the floor, as we all know, but he's great in the air. Now, I'm not saying he would have stopped Haaland. I'm not. But I'm just saying he would have had a better understanding of how to defend against Haaland in the air. I'm not saying on the deck. I'm just saying in the air.
Yeah, I agree.
Do you know what? Do you know what? When you think about City, you don't think about aerial goals. I mean, anyone can score a corner. I mean, Eriksen, you can he probably shouldn't have been marking.
Apart from us for 140 games.
Yeah, apart from us, Eric Ramsey, legend. I mean, on another day, Malacia clears that off the line. You know, the main issue for me in our defending with regards to their goals are City are the best team in the league. We getting down the byline and cutting it back. Everyone, all defenders just rushed near post, and you've just got Haaland one step to the left, boom, left peg in. I think it was the Foden one, and there's no coincidence that most of the attacks are on our left hand side, and you've got the two left footers, Foden and Haaland, racking up for them. That was their tactic. As soon as Dalot got the yellow card early doors, that was it. Spam that side. Eriksen, I think it was Foden's first goal. The problem was just tracking and ball watching. There was no tracking back. Anthony didn't track back. He didn't help Dalot at all first half. He a bit more second half. Eriksen ball watching Foden. Foden, exactly what I just mentioned, what Haaland does. Lead the defender, one step to the left, you've got that yard. And these guys are just quality players. They don't need, one or two touches. One hit, bang, goal. So it was very naive today on the defensive part of the game. I'm sure something that Ten Hag will address tomorrow morning.
What a great panel this is. You know what? I really appreciate this, boys. Very, very difficult to come on today. So thank you very much for coming on. But all made fantastic points.
That, but I'm sure all of us are used to coming on panels with you.
Yeah. All right. I didn't want to go. Yeah, okay. Don't say any more. I know where this is going.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but no, I do appreciate you coming on. It's been a good show so far. Really good talk points, and you're all fabulous. So thank you very much. Right, we're gonna do the ratings. This is gonna be fun. Stu, David De Gea. I'm not sure I'm not
Six.
sure he could have done
No,
any
that's what I
more.
mean.
It was everything in front of him today. There was a couple of points actually where I think there was one particular corner where he should have come for the ball, but that was it really.
I'll give him a 6. You concede 6 goals. You can't get more than a 6.
No, I'm surprised by a 6, maybe a 4 or 5, but I don't think he was at fault for anything, was he?
I don't think he was at fault today, so I think that had just been churlish to give him a 4 or a 5.
Made a good save at one point, didn't he?
Yeah, give him a 6.
Yeah, fair. Diogo Dalot, I'll give that one to you, Jamie.
2. I think his early booking set out the stall for the rest of the game. It allowed Grealish to, Grealish was the most fouled player in the Premier League last season. So you being a fullback on a booking, defending against him.
Who's questionable defensively, lunging in. I
think just very quickly, I'm not complaining about the refereeing performance. I think the penalty he gave us again was a little bit contentious, but I think given a booking for that, a minute in, you set your stall out there as well, and you are banged to rights then because there was a couple of times where City players had nibbles and got away with it, and I was like, well, hang on, if Dalot was a booking right at the start of the game, how are he getting away with it here? So I think Michael Oliver once again was a bit weird in a Manchester derby, but oh well. Dalot, yeah, 2.
It's not the first time, is it?
No, and it won't be the last.
This isn't us making excuses, but I do think you're right there. But it is what it is. You've got to take it. Got to suck it up, take it. Martinez, Freddie.
I'll give him a 5. I don't think there was much he could do. Unfortunately, there are some goals you just can't defend against. I mean, it wasn't so much Martinez, but the Haaland one where De Bruyne does the deep cross, and it's just, you could argue close down the cross, but those 2 centre backs they've just got their hands full against probably the best midfielder in the league and the best attacker in the league. So I think Martinez had a good second half. There were a few good pinpoint passes. Generous 5, really. I mean, the defence and the keeper conceded 6 goals, so I don't think you can really give much more than a 4-5 for most. So yeah, I'd say 5.
Yeah, that's fair. Stu, your best mate, Varane.
4 for me. I look. Let me be clear. I've seen a different type of Varane recently, but he didn't have his best game today. I mean, look,
very poor.
Foden has a shot, and I appreciate that he's slightly, his footing. He slightly lost his footing and that. But fuck me, you got to get up. I've done it again. Sorry, he's going to kill me today. You've got to get up though. You can't just lie down. A defender doesn't do that. A centre half, you've got to be tougher. You've got to be stronger. He gets a 4 for me based on that.
Yeah, can't argue with that. Jamie, Malacia.
Well, that's a tough one, I think.
You know what? I've said this so many times, probably bore you with it, and I've said it in the background as well. It's unfortunate for Dalot today. We've given him so much criticism. First of all, I'll come to Malacia in a minute, and it was just one of those today where he was just really poor and took a couple of steps back again, and it's a shame because he's been so much better in the last few weeks. And the same with Malacia. No, he's a young kid. I absolutely love the kid. I think he's brilliant. He's going to be a brilliant fullback. And it was just an unfortunate thing today. You've come up against the best team in the world, essentially. They're coming at you. They're going to take you on. Your experience is probably going to show through a bit. And it was just unfortunate. I just hope he will pick himself back up. Sorry, I've interrupted a little bit, but go on.
Well, what would you give him then, Mark? Because you've stolen my.
I'm so sorry. I just wanted to make the point that I feel sorry for the fullbacks today because they've obviously put in a real shift the last few weeks, and I don't want that to sort of have a negative impact on them, right? And,
I know what you're giving him, and it's obvious what you're giving him.
Go on. Yeah, I can't. Well, it was going to be a 3 or 4 for me. I feel like you guys I've seen some ratings on this show a few weeks ago that were like 1s and 2s. I think the first game of the season.
We had no choice, didn't we?
Well, that's true, but I thought you were just being a bit kind today, you lot. But no, yeah, it can't be any less than that. Sorry, Jamie. You tell me what yours is, brother.
I don't know, Mike. What do you think?
You were 4?
I reckon a 4. I don't think he he didn't do much wrong. He didn't have the opportunity to do much right. City were just too good, and he's young. It was a tough test for him to come up against. There'll be more tough tests, but he'll bounce back. Youngsters like him with the right attitude always do, and I've not got any worries for him. I expect to see him still start against Everton.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, 100%.
He didn't have a stinker. So.
Yeah,
No.
me too.
Well, as I was really interrupting you, Jamie, talk to me about McTominay and his rating, please.
Bro, I think he was our worst player. Maybe him or Varane. For me, would have been the worst. Today was sometimes with Scott McTominay, it's a bit of a Jekyll and Hyde situation. He'll have a really good game, and then ride off the back of that for a couple more, and then he'll drop a stinker, and then that's it. Like, he's rattled. He can't get his confidence back, and we've seen it time and time again.
We have seen that time and time again. Yeah.
And there's clearly a player there. I'm not sitting there being reactionary, being like, get him out of the club, like get him. It's not good enough, because there's clearly a player in there. Fergie rated him, Mourinho rated him. Like, these are players. These are managers that have won everything, and they still saw something in him. Ten Hag clearly rates him, but today just wasn't his day. He was passed far too easily by City. He didn't cover the channels. He didn't cover the centre. He just allowed their midfield to run past us. There was a point where Akanji and Ake were the deepest City players, but they were in our half, and they were just allowed to sit there. And there was never any real being put on them. We had Bruno was playing deep. Our wingers were playing deep, and McTominay wasn't really looking to cut the passing lanes. He wasn't really covering, like I say, he wasn't covering the wingers on the side. And I don't know whether that was because he was, he had to keep checking into Dallo and trying to help him out, but I didn't really see much of that either. So for me, if you're playing in the role he was playing in today, he should have his time and energy should have been spent helping Dallo down that City's left hand side when they were attacking, and also pressuring their midfield and trying to disrupt the play. He did neither of those things very well today whatsoever. And like I say, I do think that Casemiro will start against Everton. Now I think Ten Hag's been given his chance now to say, right, Scott, I'm going to drop you. Casemiro can come in, and we'll see where we go from there. I think Scott was a 2 out of 10 today. I don't think he did anything positive. I don't want to give him a 1 because that's a bit nasty, isn't it? And it's a bit mean. But 2.
So it wouldn't be the first time I've had a 1.
Well, I've given those 1s before, but I don't know. I'm just in a nice mood.
I think that's one of the biggest things for him. I think he does need to improve his personal mentality. I think you're absolutely right. He has 1 or 2 blinding games and then goes missing for 7. It's been a few games where he's been very good, but you just need him to sort of bounce back in and really give it a monster show, don't you? So that's something he needs to work on for sure. There's no doubt in his ability. I don't see him as a lone DM, especially not really. He's even in a double pivot, but.
Just quickly, just on that, because like for him looking at that City midfield today, and people can correct me if I'm wrong, but if I was him, I'd be going, look, I am not more technically gifted than any of these midfielders, but I am more physically gifted than them. I'm a bigger player, I'm a bigger presence, and I'm rougher than them all. And I'd be getting into their faces, I'd be harassing them, disrupting them, and just sticking close to them. And we just didn't see any of that. Like Bernardo Silva, realistically,
that's what all our players did against Liverpool. From the get-go, we looked assured and we were getting in their faces, causing them issues, ruffling them up. And that did not happen today. And that was a major difference in the first 10 minutes of those 2 games.
And because with players like that are so well drilled and know exactly what they want to do, the one thing you want to do is try and put a bit of doubt into their minds. So if Bernardo Silva's receiving the ball in the half turn, he should in the back of his mind be going, is McTominay behind me? Am I about to get clattered? And you want to put that little bit of fear into him. But they were both strolling. De Bruyne, Gundogan was playing in the 6, and obviously I know we'll probably talk a little bit more about that in some other ratings. But Gundogan was playing in the 6 today, a role that he's not very good at doing, and he had an absolute dream. The guy just wandered and was just like, this is easy. This
might give him a full sense of security for the next game, though. We'll see. Right, who's next? Freddie, Bruno.
3, generous 3 again. I think he was one of the worst players as well. I mean, it's that's between him and Eriksen for me. They just quality on the ball was non-existent compared to City, who everything was just pinpoint spot on. You could argue not much movement from the attackers. I mean, City's defenders, their fullback push up, so the attackers generally drop deep, and that hinders the capability of ball playing midfielders, but he didn't do anything. Bruno, he had a few rash shots in the second half. He was complaining again, but equally, the whole team was poor. The problem we've got is the players. You can't have it can't be all or nothing. There's got to be some players who do have the mentality to
that individual brilliant that can bring everyone up.
Yeah, exactly. And that's
we were talking about that so much during Ollie's reign. Individual brilliance. Have we got too many players of individual brilliance? And we still have, but we don't seem to see that enough that can pull a team together and say, "Look, come on, let's go." It just seems to be all or nothing, like you said.
Yeah,
bit of a shame.
I have a bit of a worry. I've got a bit of worry if the two centre mids, Bruno, Eriksson, don't turn up. What implications that has on the team? It seems that we rely very heavily, especially on Eriksson. I know it's only been a small sample size, and today was probably since the Brentford game, he's been fantastic. So yeah, it's something to keep an eye on. If those two don't have a good game, how that impacts the wider team.
Yeah. And that is a big problem. We're still short, really, in midfield. Really, you want to play 2-8s. You play exactly. Donny van der Beek's not going to get a look in at all. I think that's a foregone now. Very, very unlikely. So when those two are off, who you got?
Exactly.
No one, really. Mm-hmm. So that's something to look at, and certainly need a bit more depth there. Stu, Christian Eriksen then. Nice little segue from Freddie.
Yeah, he gets a generous 3 from me as well. He wasn't good today. I think he probably looked around and thought, well, I can't do it all by myself. Although his passing was way out of kilter today. I just think he needs somebody around him. He needs a Casemiro type player around him, somebody who can control the play, give it to him, and then Eriksen have the freedom to then push forward. And he's not getting that at this point in time. So
I think he didn't really have the support by the other person, McTominay, who was very poor in the previous games. I'm not saying that McTominay was a catalyst for this, but you're absolutely right. He's kind of the middleman, the go-between the two lines, right? And if you've got someone that's playing well behind you, it makes your day easier. So I'm not blaming McTominay either, but he had a poor game. Eriksen wasn't going to be too much better.
No, exactly right.
Awesome. Right, let's move on to the front three then. Saw absolutely nothing that I'm not even going to rate. Sure, I'm not going to rate Anthony. I'm not going to rate Fred. But come to Jamie, you first. Anthony.
There's too many Anthonys in this squad because you just said you're not going to rate Anthony.
I meant Martial, sorry. Yeah, I confused myself then, bro.
Anthony gets a 5 purely for the fact that he scored that absolute wicked goal. I think he was quite anonymous. You know what? I genuinely think it was quite similar to his performance at Arsenal, that he was quite anonymous out on the right-hand side.
Did something great, didn't he?
Yeah, except the goal. Now, if he wants to do that every game for the rest of the season, then by all means, go ahead and do it. Like, if he wants to be anonymous but pops up with a goal every single game, then happy days. But yeah, no, I think he wasn't anything spectacular. I think he was decent. I think he's still adjusting. It's his second Premier League game. He scored 2, played 2. It's a good return. Do you know what I mean? He'll find his feet in games moving forward. It was nice to see the interchange with Sancho at times. They swapped wings and helped each other out if one of them needed a bit of a breather or they wanted to try something different. And the few times that we got him involved, he looked bright. He wanted to run at the fullback. He wanted to attack the City defence. Because, and I'm sure that this will be picked up on by anyone who speaks about Sancho, one thing Sancho seems to be doing at the minute from time to time is picks the ball up and turns and faces, our end and passes the ball backwards. Anthony doesn't do that really. He seems to want to get at them. So, 5. He scored. Didn't do much else. Is what it is. No one's getting higher than a 5 and a 6-3 defeat, are they?
No. Just a little bit of made me chuckle earlier today. So Haaland at the moment is on track to score his 50th Premier League goal within 32 games if he carries on. So, which of course Andy Cole scored his 50th and 48, which was currently the record, I believe. So we'll have to see how that goes. Yeah, I mean, listen, I don't want to talk about Haaland too much, but I just want to move to him very quickly. I know we've spoken about him, but you have to hold your hands up and notice an incredible player, and you've just got to admire him. He's absolutely
The best thing we can hope for
ruthless.
is that he gets bored of playing in the Premier League after 2 seasons and
Goes to Real Madrid. Yeah. You
Or
can
he
only
gets
hope.
injured. Or he gets injured.
Yeah, no, I would never wish an injury on a player.
No, not me.
Just get Keane
Not
off the
me.
bench.
I'd inflict one on him, but I wouldn't want to wish one. I wouldn't inflict one. I mean, there isn't that solid brick wall of a centre half in the Premier League. If you look around, there isn't a solid brick wall of a centre half anymore. Haaland's as good as he is, and he's an absolute phenomenon. And the same with De Bruyne. These players like that Poser, Cancelo did nothing today, by the way, for City. I'll point that out. We kept him quite quiet. I don't know why, but they're lucky they're not coming across some of the real hard men of football. Like a Nigel De Jong or Stevie Bruce, a Vidic, just they've not come across those. I know it's all different. It's all potato, patata, etc., etc., etc. But Haaland at the minute, as good as he is, somebody's got to stand up to him at some point to stop him. Somebody's just got to stand up to him, and whether that happens or not in the next 3 years, who knows?
Everyone's got a weakness. People will suss him out. It's just come in and I think he's just ripped up everything, and no one is just. Everyone's just scared, I think. But someone will suss him out at some point. Things are there to be broken, right? Coming to Rashford, Freddie.
Probably a 2. I don't think he did anything at all. I don't recall seeing one run.
There was one point in the first half, and I was so frustrated. He managed to do all the hard work. It's not necessarily his fault. He lost his footing, but he managed to do all the hard work, got round the player, and then all he had to do then was kind of compose himself and get it to someone that was running in. I can't remember who it was, and he just fell over at that point. Not saying it's his fault, but it just makes the easier things look a bit difficult sometimes, and does the harder things well sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely, and you can tell that this is Ten Hag's tactic in the big games. Rashford through the middle, especially against high line teams, and then the midfielders pop it over, let him do what he does best. But there was just none of that. I think, it was poor confidence from all over. I thought the decision not to bring Ronaldo on was very telling. I've just seen a few quotes actually from Ten Hag saying that Ronaldo wasn't brought on partly out of respect for his career. So I'm not quite sure what that actually means.
That's such a strange. I don't quite. Is that just he's not said that right? I'm not criticising him here at all. I don't want to take it out of context, but it seems like a really strange thing to say, and I don't know whether he's utilised the wrong words for what he's trying to say. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, we'll have to see the post match after this and see the context. But look, he's clearly not in favour, is he? He's clearly not in his plans. I think in January we'll probably see some movement on there.
I think so. I don't think he's wanted either. I mean, you've read it all summer, and I don't blame it. Before Ten Hag came in, the questions were: is Ronaldo a Ten Hag player? Ten Hag said previously he wouldn't have Ronaldo in his team. This was years ago, right? So he's come in. There's going to be questions there. He's not going to just all of a sudden incorporate him into his team necessarily if he believes that. Then you had everything over the summer. Listen, Ten Hag's coming out and saying all the right things and protecting him as he should. That's expectant. But fundamentally, that doesn't mean that it's the truth, okay? And I don't think you'll see much of Ronaldo. I really don't. I think you're more likely to see Martial if he can stay fit. I really think he's more of a Ten Hag player personally.
Yeah, I agree. I think the only reason he's at the club is because of Martial's injury record and just lack of other options. So, yeah, we just have to see, injury permitting. I'm sure he might get the odd run in, come on the last sort of 20 minutes of games and maybe a few Europa League matches. But yeah, I think this all relies on Martial, really. If Martial can stay fit, he's probably going to be the centre forward going forward in future games, and possibly Rashford the odd Big Six game with his pace. But if not, Ronaldo will dip in and out. But yeah, today, going back to Rashford, 2-3 out of 10. He had a very poor game today. partly from his own performance, partly due to the lack of quality from the playmaking centre mids.
The manager of the month, player of the month curse is back, isn't it? First game, and well, Ten Hag obviously made some mistakes today, but Rashford was poor, and it's a shame because obviously he's done really, really well. Always want to back him, and I hope he picks himself back up and we see that form that we've seen in the last month. Prior to this last 4 weeks, but it's a shame today. But you're absolutely spot on there. Last but not least, Stu, Sancho.
Two.
Yeah, any reasoning?
He was an absolute waste of a number today, I'm afraid. You need better from somebody like him. You need better. You need somebody to demonstrate a want to pull on a Manchester United shirt. Now, there's a lot of people that love Sancho and won't have anything said about him. I've been caught in this rigmarole before. Right at the very, very beginning of the Sancho transfer saga, when I said, well, I've not seen it. Well, you don't watch enough for German football, blah, 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 blah. I still aren't seeing it, guys. I'm trying. I'm looking. Apart from the odd flash of brilliance, there's absolutely zero consistency in his play. There's zero dynamism in his play on occasions. And today is very, very flat. He lacked courage today, and you can't lack courage ever when you pull on a Manchester United shirt. You lack courage today. So a generous 2 from me.
I was one of those, Stu. I had his back when we were linked.
I know you did, yeah.
And I do, the numbers he was pulling up were quite incredible. And I did think at the time, even with an Ollie system, he would have been a perfect man on the right. I know he obviously got better numbers on the left at Dortmund. But yeah, I can't disagree with you and say that it's been disappointing, and he needs to show a bit more consistency. He has moments of brilliance. He's obviously scored the goal against Liverpool and a few other bits and pieces here and there, but he's got to show more.
Jared Bowen, right, has got more chance of going to the World Cup than Jadon Sancho.
Yeah, I think a lot of
English.
Sorry.
Do I say any more? Jared
No,
Bowen
you're right.
is a very, very good footballer, don't get me wrong. But, in reality, should he be, streets ahead of... And Rashford, by the way. Jared Bowen's got more chance of Rashford than to the World Cup. These two players have got to really, really look at themselves. When Ivan Toney gets picked, I know everyone's going to say Rashford was injured for England, etc. I know all of this. But Sancho hasn't made the last 4 squads. Is it 4? Something like that. He hasn't been in for a while, has he? And Rashford, these players should be looking at themselves. They should be taking a long, hard look at themselves and saying to themselves, I'm 23 years old. I'm 24 years old. I'm not going to the World Cup as one of England's best players. It's wrong. It's wrong.
It's a difficult one. I think, just echoing that comment, I think Sancho did have good 2-3 games in the winning run we had, and it's just worth noting that obviously he and Rashford weren't picked for England, so they've had that 2 weeks of not playing and the previous 2 weeks as well. So a bit of lack of match sharpness, but a lot of it's with the England manager as well. Rashford won manager of the month, and he still didn't get player of the month in the Premier League, and he still didn't get picked. So it's a bit of politics, should we say, with England. But I agree
with that.
Yeah, but they're not. I agree with the sort of point that they're not as far through their development that they should be. I mean, Sancho, it was one of the best young players in the world, and we've invested a lot in him. He has been playing. He should be further in the development than he is. Same with Rashford. But it's going to be a difficult one this year because it's so stop-start. But again, you go back to the point that these are professional players. Everyone else in the league can, show consistency. Why aren't they? So, yeah, time will tell. Hopefully, because we need them. We need them to perform. So
we do.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah. Great points today, guys. Obviously, a really tough one, as I mentioned earlier, but you've all been fantastic. So thanks very much for giving up an hour and 5 minutes of your time to talk about an abysmal performance. But hopefully that changes. Listen, guys, thanks for joining in today. Thanks for the comments as well. Obviously, get like and get subscribing. It's important to us. And those of you on Twitter, next time come over to YouTube and follow us on there. Get your comments in there. Hopefully, we'll have a bit more of a positive performance going forward. It's a game every 3 days now, pretty much. It's going to be a very... for the lack of football for the last 4 weeks, we're going to have a lot to watch. So hopefully we can watch some and get some sort of enjoyment out of it. But yeah, thanks very much, guys. We've got a show tomorrow. I believe Wayne's still doing it with Paul Parker, so it'll be interesting to get Paul Parker's thoughts on the display today, and he might even go and give you a bit more on Diogo Dalot. Obviously, both playing in exactly the same right back position. So make sure you tune in then. Are you doing your show on Tuesday, Jamie, with Luke still?
So. Yeah, should be on.
That's always a good watch. Luke's really, really great, and be interesting to get his thoughts as well. So join back in on Tuesday. But listen, thanks for joining in. As I said, enjoy the rest of your Sundays, and try to get some sleep tonight.